people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
De la noche, Stephanie Piñeiro.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. This past weekend on the undercard of Liam Botto versus Richardson Hitchens, the WBA Continental Americas and WBO International Welterweight Champion Stephanie Piñeiro, 8-0 with 2 KOs of Bayamón, Puerto Rico, squared off against Calindra Faria, 2-3 of Sao Paulo, Brazil, in an 8-round women's welterweight fight. The bout went the distance and Piñeiro secured a dominant, unanimous decision win, knocking down Calindra en route to that decision. What's next? For Stephanie? Well, they're taking her up the WBA route and the WBO route simultaneously. The WBA champion at welterweight is the United Kingdom's own Lauren Price. The WBO champion is America's own Mikaela Mayer. These fighters are further along in their careers than Stephanie is. Stephanie sports a professional record of 8 wins with no losses, no draws, 2 knockouts. She is a strong puncher, just not a strong finisher. I do not think she is ready for those fights with those fighters at this time. That's just saying that if they pursue those fights for Stephanie, I think those girls beat her. I think Lauren Price is too fast for Stephanie, way too fast, too athletic, too nimble, and I think that Mikaela is too experienced. She's already proven herself durable opposite the ring, Sandy Ryan. I think the same would happen with Stephanie Piñeiro if they were to pursue those fights. She's campaigning in the welterweight division, and there are only so many paths to an alphabet title at welterweight. Three of the champions at that weight are set to see action this weekend. Lauren Price, who I just mentioned, Natasha Jonas, and her upcoming unification match with Ivana Habazin. They've got it situated to where Lauren Price is going to face the winner of that fight irrespective of who the winner is. And that basically means that 3 out of 4 major titles at this weight are tied up in that for the foreseeable future. She won't get a title shot from any of them anytime soon, leaving her only one option, Mikaela Mayer, who's over there on the top-ranked side of things. And being honest, I don't think Stephanie is on Mikaela's radar. Mikaela wants the established names, and even if all of them are tied up, that still doesn't mean she's going to give Stephanie the time of day. Now, she can stay at welter, amassing more professional experience, banking more rounds. She can do that, but to fight for a title, I think they should move her up to junior middleweight down the line. I think they should move Stephanie up to 154 and target the WBA title. When last I checked, Canada's own amateur standout Mary Spencer was in the queue to challenge Terry Harper for her then WBA title, but we know that Terry has since moved down. She's moved down to lightweight, and she's WBO champion there. So I'm going to assume that Mary Spencer will be elevated to full champion if she hasn't been already. I think Stephanie should go after her. I think the same applies to Sandy Ryan. What they should do with Stephanie and Sandy, have Stephanie fight for the WBA, and have Sandy Ryan challenge Slovenia's own Emma Kozin for the WBC and WBO titles. Emma Kozin is unified champion at junior middle. That if you can't get anything going at 147, move up to 154. Get a head start on those girls at welter, because sooner or later, they're going to move up too. You can say that the welterweight division is a hotter division, but only if you have something going on there. Only if you can get the fights. And Sandy and Stephanie, they're outliers. They're on the outside looking in right now. Boxers got their own thing going on with their 2 champions at welterweight. Mikaela Mayer is presumably waiting for one of them. She wants to be a part of that picture too. Sandy and Stephanie should move up. Move up next year. See about fighting for a title. at Junior Middle. That's what I think they should do. Congratulations to Stephanie for racking up another win this weekend. You know, I would like to see her be more active in the coming year. Rumor has it that Matchroom is plotting Edgar Berlanga's ring return for March on his native island of Puerto Rico. It would be ideal to have Stephanie boxing on that show. Rumor has it Edgar's fighting in March. Rumor has it former champion Subriel Matias is going to be boxing on that same show. Thus, it would be ideal to have all their Puerto Rican fighters on that card. Edgar, Subriel, Stephanie. That would be ideal. I would like to see Stephanie fight 3 times next year. In March, then again over the summer months, then cap off the year with a fight in either the fall or winter. That would be ideal because she needs more rounds. And super lightweight news, former super lightweight champion Devin Haney said these bitch-ass promoters are messing the game up, and that's why I haven't fought. To be honest. Bitch-ass promoters? I thought you were a promoter. Stout observation from a friend of the channel, Amalro Austin Sr. said, Bill, take his phone, please. I was under the impression that you were your own promoter, kid, so fund your own comeback and pay yourself from the proceeds. It can't be anyone else's fault if you're your own boss. Aren't you? He's 100% right. I remember a couple of years ago when Devin Haney applied for his promoter's license and he got it. A lot was made of that, with no attention to detail. So he got his promoter's license. Anybody can apply for a promoter's license, and anybody can get it. Me and you can get it. But can we actually promote shows? Do we have the necessary ingredients, the materials, and the know-how? Because you can have the best recipe for a lasagna in the world. It counts for nothing if you don't have the ingredients. Devin Haney is no more a promoter than me and you are promoters in the sport of boxing. He does not promote shows. He doesn't promote his own shows. He doesn't finance them. He doesn't have a stable of fighters. So all of that stuff about him being his own promoter, his own boss, essentially. Take it with a pinch of salt. As a free agent, Devin does have a bit more autonomy than, say, a Teofimo Lopez. Autonomy, yes. He is more of a participant in the decision-making process without the constraints, without the commitments, but without the perks also. He's still relying on somebody else to pay him, whether it's a Top Rank, or a Matchroom, or a Turkey El Al Sheikh. It's still somebody else's money you're relying on. So where this is different for Devin Haney than, say, a Canelo Alvarez, is that Canelo is a bankable draw. So he knows that whenever he fights, it's going to generate money, that essentially his fights pay for themselves. It's not just having the freedom to go wherever you want to go, because a vagabond can go wherever he wants to go. A homeless man has the freedom to take a nap under an overpass. Yeah, he's his own boss. So when you say that the reason that you haven't fought is because of these promoters, oh, they're the ones messing the game up. Well, I thought you were your own promoter, and I thought that you were your own boss, able to negotiate your own deals. If you are this reliant on someone else and someone else's money, you're not really your own boss. Somebody else has to pay you, otherwise you won't fight. And isn't that the same thing for a Canelo Alvarez? No, because his fights pay for themselves. Devin's, on the other hand, they don't. And he insists on being paid certain dollar amounts in the millions. The fact of the matter is, if Devin Haney were a bona fide promoter, he would be able to stake his own money on his own show, put it up, pay for it, then reap the rewards, if there even are any. But he knows that there aren't, and thus, he doesn't. He's not going to gamble with his own money. What money? He doesn't have a broadcast partner, so he doesn't have anyone giving him any money, fronting him money to do shows. He doesn't have that. A promoter without a broadcast partner is about as useful as an asshole on your elbow. It's all for show, like so much of what we see in the American boxing scene. If it looks good and it sounds good, fake it till you make it. Devin can't be his own promoter, and he can't be his own boss if he's blaming not fighting on somebody else. How is it somebody else's fault? You're supposed to be your own boss. And not getting out there in a jiffy, not making use of the time. What remained of this year after the Ryan Garcia fight, that's Devin's fault. Because even if you're not your own boss, and even if you're not really your own promoter, you could have still got out there if you were flexible. If what we're talking about is just a quick run out, Well, that shouldn't be too expensive, but therein lies the dilemma. This kid wants to get paid so much every single time he fights. Maybe if you actually made a commitment to someone, like a Matchroom or a Top Rank, maybe if you were signed to an actual promoter, oh, they could have got you a run out at a good guarantee, but you're not signed to anybody. So what are you expecting? The promoters are just going to put up money for a fighter that didn't make a commitment to them? You're asking for too much. Frankly, you sound like a spoiled brat. Like a kid with a play phone playing adult. You make a commitment to a Matchroom, for example, they'll get you out there, they'll get you a fight at 1.5, maybe 2 mil, but you didn't make a commitment to them. You're a free agent, which goes back to what I've told you in previous videos. Free agency is not all it's made out to be. It's only really beneficial if you're a top draw like a Canelo. Needless to say, everybody don't draw like Canelo. Devin doesn't. Signs of the inevitable Great Reset. The market correction that will correct any self-important fighter to find out how important they're not. When you're asking for too much, you're asking for too much for a fight. To where if you don't want to fight, don't fight! Somebody else will. You're not bigger than boxing. The world ain't gonna stop for you.
You're finding that out.
Finding it out the hard way, which should be a humbling experience. These fighters and their managers and their teams think that they can just take and take and take and give nothing back to the people that bankroll these shows in the first place. The role of the promoter in boxing, it's often misunderstood, misconstrued based on horror stories and stigmas from previous eras of boxing. The boxers these days have a lot more autonomy in the decision-making process. Devin made his decision. He wants to be a free agent. So go be free. And finally, in men's cruiserweight news. This past weekend in Nova Scotia, Ryan Rozicki faced Argentina's own Yamil Peralta for the second time, and this time he got away with a majority draw. The first time, he got away with a split decision in a fight that some people felt he should have lost. Would seem that he got lucky again. He himself took to his social media afterwards and left a lengthy statement. It's been a year since becoming the mandatory challenger for the World Boxing Council's title. I did exactly what I was asked to do by all involved. Not to mention, I went in short notice against Oscar Rivas back in 2021 for the Bridgerweight title. I almost died after that fight. I never ducked or dodged anyone in my life and never complained. I fought the two contenders they asked me to fight back to back. I waited a year while the champion kept pulling out and avoiding me. In the end, I ended up taking on the number 2 for the interim title against the guy who arguably beat me 2.5 years ago. Last night, I avenged that feeling of being outboxed by Peralta, and I outboxed the boxer. The brawler, with no amateur experience, outboxed the two-time Olympian. Last night, I became the true WBC World Champion, and I don't care what anyone has to say about it. I took the belt home because it belongs to me, and I earned it through years of literal hell chasing it. If you know me, you know I have zero problem admitting defeat or taking a loss, but last night, that was not a draw. I hit him with a left hook in the 11th round, and he went down. They didn't call it a knockdown. That would have been the deciding point. WBC is holding a conference in the following days. I can only hope they do what's right and officially crown me world champion. To everyone messaging me and congratulating me on winning last night, thank you for the support. I'll be back in the ring in the following couple of months. Addressing the World Boxing Council's annual convention that, to my knowledge, is underway. Not sure if it's wrapped, if it's over and done with, but I know that they kicked it off 1 or 2 days ago.
Hola Mauricio, proud WBC champion here. I wish you and the WBC family a very successful convention in Hamburg.
So far, no news has come down that Noel Mikhailian, otherwise known as Noel Gavor, has been stripped of the WBC title, though he should have been. He was ordered to fight Ryan Rozicki, his mandatory challenger, many months ago, and there have been 4 consecutive postponements to the match. 4 is a lot. Initially, the event was supposed to be promoted by Don King, and for one reason or another, it wasn't. Thus, the rights to the promotion went to Three Lions Promotions, Ryan Rozicki's promoter, and even then, Noel found a way out. I don't understand why he is still WBC champion here today. He should have been stripped. That should have been the last straw. Don King's inability to promote this show and put it together in a timely fashion should not alienate the mandatory challenger. Time is a precious resource to a boxer. Time is the one thing you don't get back.
That and brain cells.
You will notice on Ryan's CV that there is a year's time in between the Durdola fight and the Yamil Peralta fight. That's the time he lost chasing Noel Mikhailian.
Now, I spoke to at least one guy who was there this weekend in Nova Scotia, and he told me that Ryan struggled. He might be a bit fortunate to have gotten a draw because at least in getting the draw, he stays WBC interim champion and he is still in line to challenge Noel.
Though once again, just like in the first fight, it does look like Ryan got lucky.
That's what one guy told me.
When I saw that he was going to have to fight the Argentine for a second time, I couldn't help but think that they're trying to jam him up because here he is fighting this guy again who arguably beat him when he's supposed to be fighting for the full title. Why haven't they stripped Noel Mikhailian?
And even Ryan Rozicki himself acknowledges that in the first fight, he was very lucky to get away with that decision because the guy arguably beat him.
What I think is going on behind the scenes is that Noel Mikhailian is trying to put distance between himself and that Ryan Rozicki fight.
Doesn't want it.
He doesn't want to roll the dice with him. He's the only reigning Cruiserweight champion that has not participated in a Riyadh season show. We've seen Jayo Pataya fight on those shows a good number of times for very good money, and now we've seen Zerto.
And Chris Billum-Smith, then WBO champion. The reason I think they keep putting this Ryan Rozicki fight off and trying to find ways out of it is because they want to box at Riyadh season, and unfortunately for Ryan, they may yet get their chance.
See it. I could totally see the World Boxing Council allowing Noel Mikhailian to skip over Ryan Rozicki for a unification match with Zerto.
Even though there have been 4 separate postponements and the mandatory is outstanding.
Remember, Jayo Pataya is unavailable at the moment for a unification with Zerto. He has to take care of his mandatory challenger in Hussein Sin Cara. That leaves the door open for a Noel Mikhailian versus Zerto Ramirez fight unification match. And I think the World Boxing Council would be okay with it because underneath it all, I think they would prefer that a Mexican national in Zerto hold their title than an Armenian guy based out of Florida.
What about Ryan?
I hope he's got hobbies because he may have to wait. Do you think this is the first time that the World Boxing Council will have left a fighter in limbo who was due a title shot? They did that to Kenya Enriquez for years. They did it to Dillian White for years.
And they did it to Ryan Rozicki. This one.
Noel Mikhailian hasn't had the chance to make big money from a boxing match, let alone as a champion. He hasn't fought since becoming WBC champion. And what he wants is a big payday, a bigger one than he can get fighting Ryan.
Thus, unfortunately for Ryan, I think Noel will continue to put that fight off for as long as he can, long enough to box on a Riyadh season show. That belt is for sale, and Ryan ain't got enough money.
Not enough for Noel, and that's the bottom line.